So, Ryan, first of all, I know how you felt about Charlie Kirk, and condolences on that. And thank you for everything that you're doing right now. I think this is so important, especially in the wake of his martyrdom.
Yeah, thank you. And it's an honor, really, to be part of, your friend and to be part of your team and trying to make a difference so that this doesn't go unanswered and so that hopefully some greater good comes about as a result of this.
So I remember you and I met, how many years ago? And we sat together and we talked about taking on George Soros and how important.
Yes.
Do you remember that conversation?
I do. We were discussing our mutual friend Phil Haney, who had passed, and the way forward.
And so you have been doing research, and you are a great researcher, and you've been doing research. And what can you share now? I know you want to make a big announcement when we're together again with the Charlie Kirk show, but what can you give us as a preview?
Well, what I can say is that I believe that myself and my colleagues at Capital Research Center have done the most extensive investigation into the Soros network's funding of extremists that I think was ever conducted. And the results are shocking, and it should change the game. It should equip the Trump administration with what they need in order to take action. We don't have to have a debate about free speech versus hate speech. If you look at the IRS code, nonprofits are not allowed to be engaging in criminal activity. They're not allowed possibly to even be encouraging it, if you look at the language. And what we have found is many millions of dollars going to things like that. And right now I'm holding in my hand about 100 pages of evidence that we're about to drop with you. And so I think it's safe to say that today the counteroffensive begins.
Yeah, we are going through the 100 pages ourselves right now. We got it from you last night, and we're furiously going through all of the pages. It's pretty remarkable what you have found. What is your what's your level of comfort on saying 100% correct?
I almost never say this, but it's 100% correct. And to give you an idea of why I'm so confident, there's a related report that I did for Capital Research Center called Marching Towards Violence, where we mapped out all the groups that were organizing the anti-Semitic, anti-American protests after the October 7th attacks. And we identified over 150 pro-terrorism groups that basically manufactured all of that. And this is very similar. There's some overlap. And here is what one of the media outlets connected to that seditionist movement, Truth Out, actually said. They said that our report is a, quote, existential threat that could easily mean a quick death for most of the groups, especially the nonprofits, by getting their tax-exempt statuses revoked. And those that survive, this group said, would suffer what they called mass chaos. So the extremists have told us that we've discovered how to defeat them.
You know, it's amazing to me that these guys have gotten away with it for so long. I mean, when I started, going after the Tides Foundation and showed how showed America how the shell game was working, they've only gotten more bold and much, much more dangerous, all the way into using our tax dollars to funnel money into overthrowing us. Why haven't we gotten serious about this until now?
I think it's so brazen that it's hard for people to believe that there's actually something bad going on. I mean, there's a few things going on, which is where it's so in your face that people say, well, if it was really that bad, then someone would have done something about it. And then they look elsewhere. There have been exposés done about grants going from some of these big billionaire-funded organizations going to these extremist groups, but it comes in drips and drabs. So what we've done is we brought it, in the case of Soros, brought it all together into one spot, found many, many, many more financial transactions using their own records, in order to illustrate for the first time, I think, so people understand that this is an infrastructure. This is a movement. And as scary as that is, it also means it can be taken down. We can confront them, and this is something that we can win.
You know, it's amazing to me. I think there's 3 countries. I know it's Hungary. I think it's Singapore, and I think there's another one that have banned George Soros and his allies. You can't operate in those countries because they know the damage that he does, and they know, and they've just said it out loud. Do you think we're going to get to a place to where we can start doing things like that?
Well, I think we're at that point. I think when this comes out and people realize that what the IRS code says a tax-exempt organization can do and cannot do, and how blatantly it's being crossed, that this is no longer a heavy lift. It's just a matter of willpower and coordination, making sure everybody that can make something happen actually does it and is all operating. They're all on the same page. And as bad as the threat is, and as quickly as it's escalating, I think we can rapidly push it back. And when people see that, like, Soros is funding so many groups that endorse the October 7th attacks, I think you'll even see Democratic voting and left-wing supporting groups back away and say, you know what, I don't want to touch this.
We are, like I said, we're going over the research ourselves, and we'll probably end up doing a giant chalkboard on it once we get through it. But I want you to know I'll personally give it to the president myself to make sure that he sees it, because you've done yeoman's work here and done a lot of the work for the FBI and everybody else. It's not hard to see where it is. It is hard to prove it and to track it down and make sure that everything is buttoned up. And you've done a lot of that work already. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Glenn. It's great to know that finally action will be taken with your help, and that just for everyone listening out there, like, civilians can make a difference. You know, you don't have to outsource your civic responsibility to the government and assume that they know everything and all the powers in their hands. This is the power of patriotic nonprofit organizations like the one I work for, and what independent civilians can do. You can really make a difference if you want to.
Can you talk about occupied Turtle Island? I know we've talked about this before, but I'd like you to go into that again, because it kind of goes into what you're going to talk about here coming up in a couple of hours.
Sure. So this is a term that everyone needs to familiarize themselves with, because this is how you know when a group is radical, and very often our times are hiding it. They will refer to the United States as either the so-called United States or occupied Turtle Island. And it comes to this myth that the Native Americans, before the evil white settlers showed up, referred to the entire continent as Turtle Island. And what they do is, by referring to the U.S. as Turtle Island, they're saying, we do not recognize the right of the United States to exist. And if you do not have a right to exist, then you should be destroyed. And it's the same template that they use against Israel when they refer to it as occupied Palestine. So these groups that are supposedly just anti-Israel, but then refer to the U.S. as occupied Turtle Island, they have the same exact agenda for both of us. And if you look at the foreign governments that support them, if you look at what the words of the extremists of all kinds say that are part of this movement, their big gamble is that Americans can be triggered, provoked, to rip America apart along racial lines, along political lines, and that our civil discourse, our civil society will be so poisoned that it'll cease to function, and that people will become more like Tyler Robinson supporters, and their rhetoric will be more like that and less like the love you would see from Charlie Kirk. I mean, you look at some of the longer videos of Charlie Kirk that sometimes didn't always go viral, and you can see the love he had for the people he was debating at times. And that, for me, made me a better person. That impacted me more than any opinion he expressed or argued for.
I think that's why he affected so many people. He really did love the people he was debating. He really didn't have hatred in his heart for any of them. I mean, you know, he became a Christian. He was baptized in 2018, I think. And he lived his faith. He lived his faith and was really trying to live a life very much like Christ. And, you know, not a perfect guy by any stretch of the imagination, but, man, better than I am. Better than I probably have ever been, you know, living his life. Let me ask you about one other thing. let me put a full screen up. This is Kristen Hawkins, President of Students for Life. A side-by-side picture of a Charlie Kirk memorial at UNC Wilmington. One before it was vandalized, and one picture now spray painted with trans pride colors. So vandalized after. Have you heard of Trantifa? You heard that term?
I have. Oh, yeah. It's like a militia type movement. And they've used that term to describe themselves, by the way. So it's not really offensive.
How real is Trantifa? How extensive is that? And have you seen any funding going toward groups that would call themselves Trantifa?
I've seen funding, including from Soros' network, going towards groups that ally themselves with Antifa terrorists, for sure. We're going to show that. Trantifa would be a subset of that, so you can make the argument that connection exists. But
right.
More broadly, I mean, I've been studying and monitoring extremists and giving to law enforcement intelligence about these types of people for many years, reporting thousands of them. And so I saw this militia-type Trantifa movement really growing, and it's real. Like, I've seen them own MMA gyms. I've seen them they're very pro-gun, actually, because you have to be to have a militia. And I've seen them actually radicalize what you would consider to be almost like right-wingers with this anarchist rhetoric about minimal government or no government and gun rights. And that's why the more I monitor this, the more I feel like the framing of some of this needs adjustment, because all of these diverse extremists kind of go into one global seditionist movement, is what I call it. All of us, as much as we disagree, have so much more in common with each other than all of these extremists that want to burn everything to the ground.
I know. And yet they'll stand together, and plan on killing each other after, they win against us. And for some reason, we just can't stand together. Thank you so much, Ryan. We'll talk to you in a couple of hours. Appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Glenn. Thank you.